Hello, welcome to the channel if you're new, or welcome back. My name is Kyla, half of Kyla and Alex. We are a newlywed couple who quit our 9 to 5 jobs back in May of 2024 to long-term travel, full-time travel during our first year of marriage. We kind of call this our 1 year honeymoon or a career sabbatical, be whichever one you like to call it yourselves. So on today's episode, we're going to be talking about a first impressions of the Bay of Plenty in New Zealand. Now, kind of give a little background information about the Bay of Plenty. It is a region of New Zealand in the North Island. It is about 2.5 hours southeast of Auckland. So if you're in Auckland, you're gonna drive and then kind of go over to the east. And like I said, you are on the coast of the Bay of Plenty. And the three areas that I'm going to specifically be talking about, because there are many cities that make up the Bay of Plenty, but we're going to talk specifically about the, I guess, more popular cities and the ones that we hung out in, which are Tauranga, Mount Maunganui, and Rotorua. Those are the three cities that we hung out in. We stayed in the Bay of Plenty area for 4 weeks. And I will say, absolutely love the Bay of Plenty. I think it is somewhat underrated as far as international, or people don't necessarily get out there unless you're on a cruise. If you take a cruise that goes through New Zealand, you might hit the Bay of Plenty area, but we were pleasantly surprised by it. So we did spend the month of July. So we were in the dead of winter, but being a beachside area community, uh, it was not super cold. Like, we definitely lucked out of having the coolest months of the winter being out on that coast. So yeah, it was absolutely great. So like I said, I have a little list here on my handy dandy computer to kind of talk about what first impressions we had of the Bay of Plenty. So like I said, the region altogether has about 350,000 people. So it's not a super large population, but it's not super small either. Where we actually ended up staying, we're on the outskirts. So we stayed in a small town called Makatu. I apologize if I'm saying that wrong. We stayed in an Airbnb for 4 weeks out there and absolutely enjoyed it because we were literally like a 5 minute drive to the beach. When we looked outside of our window, we could literally see the ocean. And the Airbnb had lemon trees and orange trees in the background in the backyard. So that was just a really nice little treat because sometimes I'd be cooking and I'm like, oh my gosh, I could, zest a lemon and add even more flavor to a dish. So that was just really great. And not having to buy oranges and lemons for a month was a nice little treat. But yes, so opinions about the three. I'm gonna lump Tauranga and Mount Maunganui together because they're literally like right next to each other. And I will say, local Kiwis, don't come for me. These are only my opinions. They are not facts. They're just my opinions on my experience being there. And I will also say that we were there in the winter. So, of course, in the summer, there's going to be a completely different experience, which we do plan on going back because we truly love that area. So Tauranga and Mount Maunganui are, like I said, beachy towns, and I would say kind of artsy. Like, I definitely saw a very eclectic mix of people in the way that they dressed, and the art galleries. There's a lot of galleries out there, so I equate those two cities to being very artsy, and I liked that. Like, I thought it was very good. It kind of reminded me, if you ever been to Hawaii, Paia in Maui is kind of an artsy town compared to other cities in on Maui or in Hawaii in general. So I would say that's kind of like loosely, very loosely reminded me of Paia because it was a very beachy town, but very artsy and eclectic. Tauranga area is going to have all the modern conveniences that you need. So it's not so small that you're driving, 30, 40 minutes away to go to the grocery store. Not the case. You're going to have the mall, you're going to have H&M, you have Pandora. I saw Pandora at the mall. So I was like, okay, this is a fairly large, city. When you see what types of stores are in the malls, they have plenty of movie theaters. Did go to the movies twice while we were out there. We saw Twisters, great movie by the way. So we went to the movies a couple times out there. Multiple grocery stores, multiple restaurants. Both chain restaurants and local spots. So there was plenty of options to eat. Like I said, it is also a cruise port out that way. So when the cruise ships come in, which they'll come in the summer, so around this, probably November, December, definitely by December, the population and just the amount of stuff to do there will pick up significantly. Mount Maunganui is like, I will say, I feel like it's New Zealand, or especially Auckland's like pride and joy, because everyone, I will say North Island, everyone that we've encountered, like we have not talked to every single person in the North Island, but everyone was always like, oh my gosh, have you gone to Mount Maunganui? Have you done this? Have you done that? And so we went, and it was absolutely stunning. Like, there is a kind of like a, I don't know, like a boardwalk, I guess, a little boardwalk, and you can actually do the hike up to the top of the mount, and it has a beautiful view. We never actually got around to doing that, and so that's why we want to go back. They're just, I know, 28 days, you would think a month we did everything we did. It's just not enough time. It wasn't enough time. So we definitely will go back, but there's a lot of shops and restaurants along the beach. And so it's just a really cute town. The next area that I want to talk about in the Bay of Plenty, first impressions, is Rotorua. And that is what people call the Vegas of New Zealand. And it's not that like it's full of casinos. It's not that. It's, in my opinion, I think that it got the name Vegas, Roto Vegas actually is what the sign says, is because there's like so much to do there. It's a very much like pay to play city, kind of like Vegas. Like if you got a little money, you can definitely, the world is your oyster in Vegas. That's how it is in Rotorua, because there's so many excursions. Like we took up the gondola up to Skyline, and you can go and do the luge, which we did that. You could skyline up there. I'm sorry, zip line. You can go mountain biking. You can do like this, I don't know what you call it. It's like a catapult swing. So there's all those different things. There are a lot of geothermic pools and a lot of geothermic activity, and you actually can smell it in parts of the city. The city does sometimes smell of sulfur because of that. The geothermal pools and geysers, I think is the word I'm looking for. Um, so there's definitely that. There are a lot of Maori cultural experiences there. We did participate in one. We paid to do one. I think there's about 3 different options, and so choose your budget, choose which one you like. There's so much to do. Like literally, you could probably fill your calendar honestly with like, to be honest, you could do like probably 5 days of just straight excursions, and you would never you would never be bored in Rotorua. So I think that's the cool thing about that city. It's definitely inland. It was about 45 minutes from our Airbnb. And so, to us as Americans, we're like, well, that's a commute to work. But we definitely enjoyed our time out there. It is a little smaller. You're gonna have a couple of chain hotels, but most of them are mom and pop. But like I said, there's just so much to do out there. There's also whitewater rafting you can do out in that area. Tons of waterfalls and great hikes, just all over the Bay of Plenty, honestly. Right, so a little more first impressions of the area. So, like I said, population about 350,000 between all the cities there. And you're not going to find like major skyscrapers. So we're not talking like Auckland with like a major skyline, or even Wellington, the capital, which is where I'm filming in this video. Wellington's not going to have, I'm sorry, the Bay of Plenty is not going to have those major skylines that you'll find in the other two cities that I mentioned. One thing that really stood out to us, and it's probably because it's winter, but I digress, that things close super early. Like we were really shocked at that. And they close early in Auckland too. That's pretty much the thing across all of New Zealand, but we really felt it when we were in the Bay of Plenty, very much so. So the mall is going to close at 6 o'clock. You know, there were certain excursions and activities that were closed at like 4. So we're like, oh, okay. So that's something that, something to keep in mind, that early risers, which we are not early risers, you'll really be able to take advantage of stuff. But once the sun goes down, there's not a whole lot to do in the Bay of Plenty. But like I said, it's kind of a beachy, sleepy town. Someone told me that actually it's an area that people go to retire. And so I would say don't let that deter you, because it's such a cool region. I feel like it's so underrated that a good amount of things that you can like thrill activities you can find down in the South Island of Queenstown. You can actually find those same activities, like I said, in Rotorua. And like if you're wanting a beachy destination, especially in the wintertime, if you're in New Zealand in the winter, but you're not really wanting the cold, like how it can get really cold down in the South Island, I do suggest the Bay of Plenty. Like I said, we would love to spend more time out there. Also, because they grow a lot of fruit. Te Puna, which is a town in the Bay of Plenty, is the kiwi fruit capital of the world, which was absolutely crazy to us. And so when you're driving, you can see a lot of the orchards, as you're driving down the street. And that's just something very unique, because I've never really seen that before. I know if you live in Florida or California, you would get that experience. But I mean, we're from Texas. Like, you don't just drive down a stretch of the road and like the entire road on each side are orchards for fruit, like berries or kiwis. Like, that's so different for us. So yeah, overall, that has been my opinion on first impression opinion on the Bay of Plenty. Definitely a place to check out. I am obsessed with the North Island of New Zealand. We've spent majority of our time on the North Island, and so it is kind of near and dear to my heart. I feel like people, when they come to New Zealand, they are quick to run down to the South Island, and it's like, okay, that's cool, but there's actually so much to do here on the North Island that you honestly could take a whole trip. Like, if you came here for like a week or two, you could spend an entire week or two, honestly, just on the North Island, and then you would honestly need like another week or two and or a whole nother trip to experience the South Island. But yeah, anyway, thanks so much for joining us. Let us know in the comments below what you thought about Bay of Plenty. If you've been, would you consider going? And we will catch you in the next video. Bye.